To utilize CSS flexible box layout in laying out your view, you need to use Vaadin vertical and horizontal layouts, or HTML elements like div with their CSS display property set to flex or inline flex. Here we have a view with a vertical layout. In CSS terms, the vertical layout is called flex container. You can see its flex container properties in the properties panel. These properties control how its child components are laid out. The child components are called flex items. Let's add 3 buttons and a horizontal layout into the vertical layout. The components get laid out in a column. This is the direction of the main axis of the vertical layout. The axis perpendicular to the main axis is called cross axis. Let's select the vertical layout to see how its container properties affect the child components. First, we can reverse the direction of the main axis or even change the direction altogether. Naturally, instead of changing the direction of a vertical layout, you would rather use a horizontal layout. But for HTML elements with display flex, you might want to set the direction explicitly. Now we will just want the vertical layout as is. To get back to the defaults, we click the direction button again to unset it. To control how the child components are laid out along the cross-axis, we use the align property. We can align the components at the start, center, and end of the cross-axis, stretch them across the container, or choose to align their baselines. Let's go back to the default, which is the start of the axis. The container properties affect all the child components, but the align property we can override for individual children if needed. Let's make the second button to stretch across the container. The justify property is used to control layout along the main axis. We can either move all the children around or distribute the space around them. There's one more property for the container, a wrap. To see how it works, let's add 3 text fields into the horizontal layout. The text fields get laid out in a row in the main axis of the horizontal layout. Notice how the text fields don't quite fit into the view. We can fix that by widening the view, but that's not always possible or even desirable. Instead, we can make the horizontal layout wrap. Then its child components are laid out on multiple lines. To control how the lines are laid out, we use the new align property that showed up when we enabled the wrap. For the align property to have any effect though, there needs to be some room in the container in the cross-axis direction. We can make the horizontal layout to occupy the remaining space in the vertical layout by letting it grow in its flex item properties. Now we can lay out the lines of the horizontal layout. Here we have similar options as in the justify property. If you need more control over CSS flexbox properties than what is offered by the Designer UI, you can always edit the component style attribute directly.